Modification. Modify means to construct, improve, move, wreck, or demolish. Okay? An example of modifying is the building of a new block wall where no structure previously existed. So for the lady that had the question about adding on to a house, if nothing existed there previously and it was raw land and there's footers and stuff that needs to be done, that part of it could be considered modification. Maintenance. Maintenance is the upkeep of property or equipment. An example of maintenance is the annual system checkup that includes topping off of any fluids. You know what else is maintenance? A rental house that needs to be refurbished because the people who rented it tore it up and you need to get it ready for the next renter. Very real. It happens. Broken toilets, need the walls repainted, the furnace has to be fixed because they did something crazy to the air conditioning system. This is all maintenance now. Repair. Repair is an activity that returns real property to a usable state from either partial or total state of inoperability. So this is where the HVAC guy is. When they talk about clearing pipes, they're not talking about the roto-rooter dude. They're talking about the guy that comes out and the pipe doesn't work because you've got tree roots that now have squished it. It's that. Adjusting satellite dishes is pretty easy. Replacing worn washers. This one, in the past, it was only the washers, but actually if your faucet was yucky and you wanted a new faucet, we've all got those ones. Arizona is horrible for water. So you've got one of those faucets that you move and it's got all the crusty, chalky stuff, and you can use the CLR all you want. That is not coming off. And you want a new faucet, those ones are really pretty. Or you want the one that you bump with your arm and it turns on. Until your cat figures out they can turn it on. Those are really great. You wake up in the night to the sound of water sprinkling on your floor and you wonder why, and the cat's going, I don't know what happened. Didn't happen to me, it happened to a friend of mine. I was like, ooh, that is not cool. But even the replacement of the faucet. Let's talk about replacement. Now this one was hard for me. I gotta be honest, I've been there a lot of years. This one was hard for me to wrap my head around because for HVAC guys, we used to talk about something being inconsequential in the operation of the machinery. And if it was inconsequential, you could just call it service. You know, like replacing pads or cleaning filters or that kind of stuff. Now what we're talking about is, I'm going to replace something with something else. I have an HVAC system that's not functioning at its optimal level. It's still working, but it's not great. I want to replace it with a brand new state-of-the-art, low usage of electric kind of one, because I want my electricity bill to go down. Replacing one with another is replacement. You pay tax on the item that's being replaced, no tax on the labor. That was hard for me, yes?
If we're replacing old sewer lines with new sewer lines, the city hires us and says, okay, these sewer lines have been here for 30 years, put in brand new ones. Is that prime contracting or is that?
Replacement.
That's replacement. So that we would pay for the materials, we pay for the pipe when,
yes.
when we buy it.
Yes. Let me give you an example that's bigger than that. Because again, it's bigger than that. They hire a contractor to repave everything on the whole entire road that goes between Phoenix and Tucson. How long has that road been there? Long time. They're replacing just the pavement, covering it up, restriping it, doing all of that. That would be considered repair as well, and maintenance. Pay tax on the materials and no tax on the labor. A lot of people wrap their heads around like how long something has been there or how much you're exchanging out for something else. The whole point is that it has already existed. There's an example, and this one kind of tripped me at first and then I got it. There's an example in our FAQ of a road, and the road bears a state route number, but it is dirt. It is a dirt graded road, and a highway contractor is hired to pave the whole entire thing from beginning to end. It was a graded road, it was dirt, but they're now paving it. It's not changing the identity of the fact that it was an identified route, it's a road. A road is a road, so this is now considered maintenance, repair, and alteration. Okay, yes?
Using this gentleman's example of pipe, new sewer, what about storm drain that falls under the exempt?
The 4-inch? Yeah, the exemption is in retail for the fact that it's a 4-inch or greater pipe. Your retail exemptions haven't gone away. So if it's already exempt at the sale, because it's a 4-inch pipe, then that exemption stays under retail, okay? All right, so, alteration. Alteration, by the way, restaining, if you ever have to put the word restaining in something, it'll come up as being wrong every time. It makes me crazy when I do my spell check. Restaining a wood deck, refinishing hardwood floors, enlarging a patio, installing a water softener, all these things are now considered alteration. Tax on the materials. Here's where the change orders are. Change orders are considered a separate contract. If the change order is for a modification activity that is subject to tax, the entire change order is subject to TPT, but just the change order. Taxability of the change order does not affect the taxability of the original contract. A contract with a property owner or owners or improvements for maintenance, repair, replacement, or alteration of existing property is not subject to tax if the contract does not include modification. And here's where that DeMinimis comes in. The DeMinimis, when we looked at other states, remember I said there's 42 of them that do this. When we looked at other states, they had a percentage of contracting that they allowed to happen and not make the whole thing a modification. Most of them were 10% or under. We used common sense. Previously, I know, the Department of Revenue, he's laughing. The Department of Revenue used common sense. We used common sense. We knew that your industry was already used to that inconsequential, like if you were coming out to do a service and the materials included were inconsequential in the total job. I came out, my service call was $90 to replace a 50-cent washer. I didn't have to charge retail on the 50-cent washer. That kind of stuff. Okay, so we use the 15% rule and we use the de minimis. If a modification occurs within a contract, so there's this one piece that's a modification. I'm going to demolish something to do something else or whatever. If that is de minimis, 15% or less of the total contract, then the whole contract can remain as non-taxable service. Okay?
I have a question on the change order.
Yep.
So if you contracted to build a new house for somebody, you're the plumber, and you were putting chrome fixtures in, brushed nickel in, that's now a change order, and that's now subject to tax?
No, you said you're building a new construction?
Yeah.
Okay, well that would all be subject to tax anyway.
It was a change order.
Okay, is the house already built?
No.
Okay, so it's all considered part of the same taxable. What I'm talking about is you're doing prime contracting, okay? For prime contracting is prime contracting. You are building a new home. Anything that goes into the new home, you don't pay tax on, and tax on new construction is at 65% of the total job, whether it's brushed nickel or chrome. That's all going to be the same still. What I'm talking about is they're doing something that is not prime contracting. It's just a service. And in the middle of the service, while you're in there, she decides or he decides that they want you to do something else that is different in addition to, that is now outside of what would normally be what it is that you're doing. You're doing an alteration, a repair, or a maintenance, and now they want something entirely different. And that's where the separation is. If you're a prime contractor, prime contracting is still prime contracting, and the rules did not change. Okay? All right. So, materials purchased for incorporation into non-taxable maintenance, repair, replacement, or alteration projects are subject to retail TPT at the time of purchase from the retailer. Because the exemption that you would have on the 5000 says you're purchasing them to be incorporated into a taxable project. Well, if the job isn't taxable, then you need to pay tax on the items. Okay, and this is where he comes in. He's talking about, he's already doing a taxable project. He should purchase anything that goes into there without paying tax, and the project still remains taxable.
So are the retailers just gonna have to be on the, I mean, the contractor's on the honor system when there's a retailer buying, if they go into Home Depot and
Well, they always have been on the honor system. Let's be honest, the last paragraph of the Form 5000 says I'm being honest, and I'm saying the reason I'm purchasing this is to go into a taxable project, and that is my ordinary course of business, and I have filled it in honestly. And what the last paragraph does, in Arizona, we have transaction privilege tax. The tax is a burden on the business that's doing the selling or transaction. So the retailer has always been on the hook for collecting the correct amount. But the Form 5000 says if you're lying, you're dying. And that means if you signed this and you said that you're making this purchase exempt from tax to go into a taxable contracting project and you're not, the burden now is yours. And it's always been that way. It has not changed. And so the Form 5000 is going to be the thing that helps these businesses that are doing the selling, because they aren't going to be left on the hook. If they're doing their due diligence and they've accepted a Form 5000 from somebody, and the person says, this is my license and I'm incorporating it into non-taxable contracting projects, then the supply house has done their due diligence. It's now up to the person that signed it to do the right thing.
Now, going back to the update, so we don't collect the forms every time our customers make a purchase. We just put them on their account and then it runs from there, right? So what do we do come January 1st? We just switch everything to taxable until they provide us new tax exemptions that we can validate? Or how do we make the transition?
Well, considering that they should be getting rid of their licenses or not getting rid of their licenses, I would be cautious if I had one that covered a long period of time and I have not updated to make sure that their licenses are correct.
I have 2,000 customers. So how do I, we have to make some sort of ease transition for our customers, right? I either switch everything to taxable and customers have to, because we are not sending them out until January 1st, that's my problem.
The new licenses, but they'll know whether they're keeping it or not. If they filed their renewal, they've got their renewal. If they've got proof that they filed their renewal form, and our website still says that it's a valid license and they haven't surrendered it.
So I guess that's my question. If I go in now this month, this December, I go in and validate all the licenses, come January 1st, then it's going to be accurate information?
Should be, until they decide any time after that to get rid of it. They could do that at any point.
Well, my question was if the website is accurate for November through December, and in January it drops to...
The website is accurate up to within 3 hours of the time you check it.
Okay.
Which drives me crazy sometimes, because I'll go in and make a change, and then somebody, well, I used to, hey, here's something for you to know. You can ask me questions that you want to ask and not worry about me looking at your stuff, because I gave up all access to your stuff about 3 years ago. I have no business of being able to know your business license and all that stuff. And though I trained everybody on how to use the computer system, when I moved to this position, one of the questions they asked is, do you still want access to that? And I gave it up. So I used to be able to make changes on somebody's license, and they'd go into Easy Taxes and they wouldn't see it right away, and then they'd keep calling me. I'm like, it's 3 hours, it's 3 hours, it's 3 hours. So we do upload to that 3 times a day.